Nin explains the rules of curling. Curling is a Scottish sport that is now played internationally and at the Winter Olympics. The game is played with 2 teams, with 4 players taking to the ice at any one time. There is 1 reserve player in case of injury. The object of the game is for your team to score more points than the opposing team. To score, a player will push a 44-pound block of granite, otherwise known as a curling rock, down a sheet of pebbled ice towards a circular target known as a house. The middle of the house is known as the button. The ice is 46 metres long and 5 metres wide, and each house is roughly 34 metres apart. Hog lines are 21 feet away from the button, and the hacks are 12 feet behind the button. The ice surface is not smooth. It has a pebbled surface that is created to enable the stones to curl. Each player is given 2 stones, and players from both teams take it in turns to push the stones down the ice towards the button. They start from the hack and methodically push the stones in a controlled manner. Players must let go of the stones before reaching the hog line, and any stones that touch the sides or go past the house are disqualified from play. To score in curling, your stones need to be in the house, and only the team closer to the button actually scores. They get 1 point for being closer to the button, and they score 1 additional point for every stone that is closer to the centre of the button than any opponent's stone. In this example, Red scores 3 points, as 3 of their stones are closer to the button than the nearest yellow stone. In this example, Red only scores 1 point, as only 1 of their stones is closer to the button than the nearest yellow stone. Curling is referred to as chess on ice, and there's a lot of strategy involved. The players must throw the stones in a specific order. The first 2 stones are thrown by the lead or the first. These players usually have perfect weight, and can place a stone exactly where they want them in the house. The second 2 stones are thrown by the second. These players will usually throw stones short of the house in order to get in the way of an opponent and causing blocks to guard their own stones. The third 2 stones are thrown by the thirds. These players are highly skilled in removing or taking out opponent's stones whilst trying to leave their own stones in play. The last 2 stones are usually thrown by the fourth, otherwise known as the skip or skipper. The skip is the captain of the team and is generally the best overall player. They are responsible for playing the last 2 stones and for trying to score as many points as possible. So, what's with all the sweeping? As earlier mentioned, the ice surface is not smooth. The surface is covered with frozen water droplets known as pebbles. You can affect the speed and direction of curling rocks by sweeping the pebbles on the ice surface. Without going into too much detail, this means that you can effectively steer a 44-pound block of granite down a sheet of ice to land on an area the size of a toilet. Up to 3 players can sweep the ice in front of a curling rock, but it must not be touched by a broom or by their feet. The skip generally shouts instructions to the other teammates as to how hard to sweep the ice in order to get the shot required. Once all 8 stones have been thrown, this is known as an end. A new end then begins play from the other side of the ice. A curling game is played over 10 ends, and the highest score after 10 ends wins. There are no ties in curling, so if the scores are tied after 10 ends, extra ends will be played to determine the winner. That's basically curling in a nutshell, but there's a few other things you'll need to understand before playing or watching a game. For example, the hammer. As you can probably tell, it's an advantage to throw the last stone in curling. This last stone is known as the hammer, and is usually thrown by the skip. Once a team scores, the hammer will go to the other team in the next end. If there is no score at the end of the end, the hammer is retained by the same team. Strategically, some players will intentionally not score in order to retain the hammer. Burning a stone or burnt rock. As earlier mentioned, you are not allowed to touch the rock with your broom or your feet. If this happens, the opposing skip can decide whether or not to disqualify the stone and remove it from play, leave the stones as they are, or reset the stones and make them play that same shot again. It is considered good sportsmanship to admit to any burnt rock, and extremely bad sportsmanship to burn a rock and not admit to it. Conceding. If a team believes they have no realistic chance of winning, they can concede the game and end the game there. A team may concede any time after the 6th end. Measure. If there is a dispute between teams as to who is closest to the button, either team can request a measure. An official will come out with a measuring device and find out for sure which stone is closest to the button. The official will usually push away the stone that is not closest to the button, leaving the closest stone on the ice. Time clock. In the sport of curling, you only have 73 minutes in which to complete all your shots. If you've not started your final shot by the time 73 minutes has expired, you automatically lose the game. Now that's a lot to take in, but as you watch or play curling, the rules will become clear. If you found this video at all helpful, please like, comment, share and subscribe. It takes me ages to make one of these things, and good karma is very much appreciated. Be sure to follow me on Twitter also, but in the meantime, enjoy curling.